share again, right?
No, not yet. Please, I'll let you know when it's time for you to do so.
Okay.
Okay. Hello and good morning and welcome to the Post-Harvest Losses. May I please ask everyone to mute themselves and turn their cameras off to limit interference? Thank you. My name is Chidima Azike, and I'm the project manager at the Competence Center Agribusiness for the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce. The Association of German Chambers of Commerce and Industry is the central organization for German Chambers of Commerce abroad and has representative offices at 140 locations in 92 countries worldwide. The Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria, together with its commercial affiliate DGIC International Business Services Limited, supports German and Nigerian companies in fostering their business relations through the extensive network and expertise. DGIC has been in Nigeria for 41 years with our offices in Lagos and Abuja. This webinar takes place every first Wednesday of the month. And this year we're focused on post-harvest losses and how to mitigate these losses. In our past webinars, we have looked at cashew, fruits and vegetables, cocoa, soya beans, sesame seeds, and today, obviously, we're looking at rice. And we'll be looking at maize and cassava in the following months. Under the delegation, we have our competence centers, which are business development, energy and environment, innovation and startups, skills development, agribusiness, marketing, finance, and administration. This webinar is the 7th edition of the Post-Harvest Losses webinar organized by the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce, supported by SDG Market Building Initiative by GIZ. We have Zainab Dati from SDG Marketing Building Initiative by GIZ. She'll be speaking with us briefly about who they are and what they do. Zainab, you have the floor.
Good morning. Apologies. We're having some internet issues. I just was able to log in, but let's see if I can share this real quick. It's just a brief intro to what we do at SDG Market Building.
Yeah.
Just a second. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Zainab Dati. I'm a country representative and technical advisor for the GIZ Project Development Program, which is also supporting the SDG Market Building, an initiative for investment promotion of green tech solutions in agriculture in Africa. The SDG Market Building is commissioned by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Development and Cooperation to contribute to greener economy, resource efficiency, reduction of agricultural loss and hunger, and creation of jobs. Currently, we support your business to invest in efficient and climate smart green tech solutions. Currently in 2 countries, piloting in Nigeria and Kenya because of the huge agricultural potential in both countries, an opportunity to increase output through green tech solutions. We are active in production or processing of our agricultural outputs, but our targets really is we're looking at medium-sized farms and producers, aggregation levels such as cooperatives, cluster farmers, and then we're looking at licensed warehouses and storage warehouses as well. The technologies we support right now are irrigation. We're looking at irrigation such as smart irrigation, drip irrigation, and all types, depending on the crops grown, depending on the type of soil. We do assessments for that. Post-harvest mechanization, such as solar-powered storage facility, dryers, millers, threshers. Then we're looking at agrivoltaics, which is dual land use, which can protect crops and soil in drier regions of like ours. Also reduces evapotranspiration. So how do we do this? We identify a potential lead and send questionnaires to for an overview of operations of the site. And then based on that, we can do a site visit and do a detailed collection, draft investment dossiers, and that reflects the current operations and the plans for expansion and upscaling of the operations. Then we match with providers, tech providers or financial providers, depending on the needs. There's some, clients that already have the funding required, but to source the technology, especially climate smart technology, might not be that easy to have them coming to find the right technology for their operations as they're looking for it at the moment. So that's what we help to do both as tech, and then for finance, where we seek financial options for them, maybe through the business model or maybe some sort of funding institution. But we do not finance. We support by developing your project and matching you with the correct solution providers, whether tech or finance. So this is your investment, your ROI, but you just get free support from us, which is great. We connect local businesses with technology providers globally. It could be German, other countries or international platforms. We also use this platform called Levers, which I'll show you on the next page. What does Levers, what do we do with Levers? Basically, what we want is for businesses, not just for clients or off-takers who are looking to expand or upscale, but also solution providers to also register on Levers so that they're also kept abreast of what we are doing, new projects that are put on Levers, both in Nigeria and Kenya, and are able to sort of offer their services through Levers, and then we're able to also contact them constantly. So we would really advise for companies, solution providers, tech providers to please sign up on Levers. And yeah, this is just like a brief introduction to this. Thank you very much. We'll share this obviously afterwards. I'll share it with Stella and she'll be able to share it with all the participants. Thank you.
I don't know if you can assist.
Thank you very much, Zainab. So quick house rules. I would appreciate if everyone keeps the microphones muted and their cameras turned off whilst our presenters are making the presentations. Thank you. Also, please note that this webinar is recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel. So please share it with your colleagues when we do so. If today is your first time joining us, we hope you make this a monthly occurrence. During the presentations by speakers, please use the chat function box to ask your questions, which will be addressed at the end of both presentations. With us today, we have two industry leaders who will be speaking on rice production and processing, challenges faced, and what solutions are available to mitigate post-harvest losses within this value chain. The presentation slides will be shared with you all after the session. And now to our first speaker for the day, Michael. Michael is the co-founder and MD of Herman Synergy Limited. He'll be sharing his experience with rice production and processing. Michael, you have the floor, please. Michael, please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Stella, for having me here. And let me just quickly share my screen. And we can start. Okay, I don't know if you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So before I start, I would like to just apologize, crave your indulgence. I'm just recovering from cold, so I hope my voice will be clear enough for everyone to hear me. So I'm going to be talking about tackling post-harvest losses, our experiences working with smallholder farmers. So basically, every discussions or every story we share here, it's coming from our experiences working with smallholder farmers over the past 2 to 3 years. So we're going to be looking at a bit of our company, what we do, our goals, our revenue, our farmers engagement process, our journey so far, our team challenges and opportunity, and then outcome. So I want to start with our business. Basically, we see ourselves as a mid-level value chain grain aggregation, grain and smallholder farmers aggregation company. And as of today, we're working with about 6,000 smallholder farmers in Kaduna State and in Kogi State. As a company, we started operation in 2015, but basically our direct engagement with smallholder farmers started in 2020. And in total today, we've been able to support farmers to produce over 80,000 tons of grains. We basically are focused on rice, maize, and then soya beans. Also, overall, we have, I'm going to discuss further down, we've been able to generate as at 2021 over 644 million naira. So, and we are, like I mentioned earlier, we're focused on rice, maize, and soya beans, targeting smallholder farmers that cultivate these crops. And we also help these farmers. We focus on 3 key things. 1, help the farmers with inputs, knowledge, and market access. Those are our 3 cardinal focus. And in Kaduna State and in Kogi State, the smallholder farmers, more or less, is like a program that we developed, and we call that program Chingaba Manoma. So that literally translates to like the progressive farmers. So here we want to talk about our company goals. There are 2 priorities. I've broken that down into 2. We have the first part of our goal is to actually hit 15,000 farmers, smallholder farm by 2024, and then help farmers to be able to achieve 5 tons per hectare. You know, today, most farmers, particularly rice, are averaging around 1 ton, 1.5 tons per hectare. So our goal is to actually help them to get to at least average of 5 tons per hectare. And then our second priority is to be able to hit about 30,000 tons of grains in terms of our sales of grains by 2024. Also, we are looking to be able to get what's it called, set up warehouses to the capacity of about 35,000 tons by 2024. And the second part of our goal is to be able to reach about 500,000 farmers by 2030 and 1 million smallholder, so by 2030, and then be able to aggregate and sell grains worth of over 1 million tons by that 2030. And then we also intend by that time to be able to attract the right capital that will help us to achieve that growth. So our target for 2022 is to be able to do over 1 billion naira. That is our financial goal for this year. And here's our small, our farmer engagement process is particularly unique. And we've been able to take this approach based on what we've seen, you know, engaging farmers, meeting, going to their communities, and understanding how, you know, we can get the best out of what we do with them. So, and this is the first approach is actually to go to the community leaders. As a matter of fact, we take what we call community-based approach. That is more or less like our leverage social capital. I hope everyone can hear me. Sorry, there's a noise at the background. So, so the first thing we do is to go to communities, meet with the community leaders, talk with them, and let them know what we actually we want to do with farmers within those communities. And then we capture the biodata of those farmers. We use a specific technology that is tailored. Usually we go, most of these rural communities do not have a network. So we use a technology called Workbench that we capture their data offline, and then when we come to where there is a network, we then synchronize their data. And then thereafter, we verify their land. We screen the farmers to know which farmers are actually farmers we can work with, and the ones that we know that these are not viable farmers. And basically, one of the critical factors we use in actually assessing farmers is that the farmer must own their land. They must own their own land, they're not renting it. The land must belong to the farmer. All the farmers that participate in our program. So once we're able to verify that land, the minimum hectares that we allow is 1 hectare, and the maximum is 3 hectares. But usually we do prefer 1 hectare per farmer. And then we then sign an agreement with the farmers, with the having the community leaders to also guarantee each farmer that participates in our program. Then we do, and this is like our key, key approach, or rather key selling point for us. So we group our farmers into what we call accountability group of 4 members each, comprising 2 women, 2 men. And we do this specifically because we want to be able to achieve 50-50 gender balance. So for each group, there is the chairman, or rather the chairperson, and there's the secretary, and then the 2 other members. The chairperson is actually responsible for making sure that, himself or herself, and the other members meet their commitment to the program in terms of, doing everything that we set out to do with them, the rules of participation and everything. So we directly engage more with the chairperson. Our interaction is more with the chairperson, and why the chairperson trickle down whatever engagement we have with him or her down to the other group. But before then, we usually have what we call town hall meetings, to let these farmers know what we're out to do and their own expectations. And we then monitor the farmers. This is a very critical part of our operations. So we monitor them from cultivation all the way through harvest. We do like 4 rounds of monitoring at the stage of cultivation, planting, post-planting, and then harvesting. And then we round up the year's program. Then the other point again is that we do aggregate, and in fact, the critical part of our program with them is that we give them the inputs that they need, we train them, we then provide market access. So at the point of giving them inputs, we value the total cost of input that we give to them, and we require them to pay us back with grains at the end of the harvest season. But we're very mindful with the price that we set, which they're using paying us back. We make sure that that price is usually lower than the market rate. And then the input cost, of course, we're getting our input from way more cheaper source. So the cost of us, whatever it is that we put together per farmer, whatever we spend per farmer, is usually less than what that farmer, maybe as much as 30%, sometimes much as even 40% less than what that farmer would have spent going to buy those input directly from the retail store, and coupled with the training that we give them. So at the end of the season, the farmers then return back, pay us back with grains. So basically what we are out to do is to bridge knowledge, input, and market gap. So I wanted to also speak briefly on the Nigerian rice sector. If you look at it, there's been significant progress for those of us who are in the industry and the sector. If you follow through what has happened over the past 10 years as compared to what were the case before, you will see that significant progress have been made over this past 10 years. And some of the key data that we've been able to extract, and this is also based on our interactions with some of these rice millers as well, is that as of 2015, for instance, there are just about 10 large integrated rice mills with combined capacity of about 300,000 tons. Today, we have over 68 of those large integrated rice mills. As a matter of fact, by the end of the year, we're looking at over 70 of those rice mills. And then also, as at 2015, or rather today, as of today now, the total rice production in terms of processed rice is about 5 million tons. This is a far cry from what used to be like 15 by 2015. Also, we have seen that the total area of land under cultivation have also increased by today. Well, it's based on the data that are available, is about 5.3 million hectares. Also, paddy production have significantly increased. Today, what the data is showing, it's around 8 million metric tons. It's against 5.4 million tons in 2015. Also, we're seeing that despite the progress that has been made in terms of setting up large integrated rice mills across the country, cottage milling still remains the major millers in the country. A lot of the cottage, a lot of the rice that are milled in the country today is still being done by cottage millers. So there's still a lot of room for more integrated rice mill to come on board. So at least the quality of rice that are being produced in the country can continue to increase. So again, based on our interactions with a lot of these companies, we have come to realize that, just an average of about 80%, in fact, some of the rice mills that we interact with have about below 50%, as a matter of fact, capacity utilization. And largely because they don't really have enough paddy to feed their mills. Either maybe because they don't have the fund, or because, at the time where they don't have the fund to be able to stock their warehouse all year round. And we all know that majorly rice cultivation in Nigeria is we're still seeing a lot of progress in dry season farming, but 70 to 80% of the rice that is cultivated or rice produced in Nigeria is still they're still being grown during the wet season. So we also would like to also mention some of the rice millers that we deal with: Olam, Onyx, Black Farms and Mills, and Stallion Group. These are some of the customers that we dealt with before. We continue to do business with. And one of the key concerns for most of these rice millers is the quality of paddy that they receive. In fact, if you go across all the rice mills that large integrated rice mills in the country, if you ask them one of their key pain points, they will tell you that it is the quality of paddy, because a lot of the paddy that they receive come with foreign matters, colored grains, immature broken grains, and the rest of them. So we also know that despite the challenges that we are seeing today, opportunities are also there. So on this slide, I want to talk about what we've done so far as a company. In 2000, like I mentioned earlier, we commenced our direct engagement with smallholder farmers in 2020. And by that 2020, we're able to set up our plan, we're able to develop our strategic plan and vision. And we were able to work with about 1,000 smallholder farmers for that year. And we collectively aggregated about 1,100 tons from those farmers and generated about 220 million naira for that year from selling those grains. Then last year, we grew our numbers to about 3,500. and we're able to receive and aggregate about 3,200 tons of grains from these farmers, and we were able to do about 644 million naira in revenue last year. This year, we're basically working on about 6,000 farmers, and we're projecting to do over 1 billion. Out of the 6,000 farmers that we're working with this year, about 3,000 of them are rice farmers. And I should mention that our rice, the smallholder farmers that we work with are majorly in Kogi State, in a local government called Ibaji, where they produce a lot of paddy in the state. So from our strategic vision, as mentioned earlier, we're hoping that by 2025, we should be able to do about 5,000, rather work with about 50,000 smallholder farmers by 2025. We're looking at 500,000 farmers by 2030 and 1 million smallholder farmers by 2035. So that is our big picture and our goal. And we're hoping that by 2035, we should be able to hit over $1 billion revenue by then. So here is our team. We have a very unique team composition and structure, and that has largely helped us in, should I say, to be pretty successful in engaging farmers. We all know how difficult it can be to deal with rural smallholder farmers in Nigeria, particularly from the experiences of the anchor borrower programs and all of that. When you give these farmers input, you train them, most of them don't get to pay back. They don't want to pay back. So we made it very clear to our farmers that this is not some government program. This is a completely private sector driven program. And for us to be able to make sure that we're keeping track and monitoring and engaging the farmers in a way that allows us to be able to get the outcome that we're looking for, we have what we call field officers. We have what we call senior field officers. We have what we call the project, community project managers. We have the project manager, and then we have every other finance, chief finance officers, and the rest of them. But the key point I wanted to mention here is that for each FO, we don't assign more than 50 hectares and 50 farmers to each field officer. So in that way, that particular field officer can be able to monitor and engage these farmers, more productively all through the farming season to harvest. Then the senior field officer actually oversee the work of the field officers at the ratio of 1 senior field officer to 10 field officers. And then we have a community project manager. For instance, in Ibaji is a local government of about more than 50 communities. So for a community that has up to, let's say, 1,000, between 1,000 to 1,000 farmers and hectares, we assign 1 community project manager to that particular community. Then we have the project manager, and then warehouse managers, of course. Their role is to make sure that everything that goes into our warehouse and come out of our warehouse, particularly inputs and then the grains that we collect from our farmers. Then we have our chief finance officers, security, and the rest of the team. This is where I want to really focus on for this webinar, some of the key challenges that we're seeing. So I broke the challenges to like 3 parts. One is for our business directly, then for the millers based on our interaction with them and what we've seen, and then for the farmers. So for us, for instance, we of course we will need to access more funding to be able to get to the growth level that we're looking at. We also are having a major challenge with rural logistics, like trucking to move goods from the farm to our warehouse and the rest of them. That's actually one of the major, for people who deal with farmers or deal with rural business and all of that. That's one of the critical challenge that you get to face. Then we're having the problem of warehousing. You know, there's not enough warehouses. For instance, in Ibadan, you know, where we operate our rice farming program, we have to set up our warehouses in the nearest town called Ida. You basically cannot find, you know, a warehouse that can take up to 1,000 tons of grains. You know, so that's, and outside of that, if you look across the country, that is one of the major challenge that most agribusiness, particularly business that are dealing with grains and all of that are facing. Then again, a very crucial problem again is the payment system. We find out that 90%, particularly from our own experience, of the farmers that we deal with, they want you to pay them money in cash. That's what they want. So you hear about all of this new technology coming up, but the reality is that you go to a lot of rural communities. Most of them, 90%, as much as 90%, I'll put it at that percentage, still remain unbanked, you know, and they tend to do transaction with cash. So that's a huge challenge for us, because most times you have to like be moving cash to pay farmers, but we're trying to change that. That is part of the orientation that we're giving them, and making sure that, okay, a lot of these farmers, we have a lot of these farmers to open a bank account, and much later on we'll come up with our own technology to make payment, our payment process much easier. So then some of the challenges that we've also, you know, based on our interaction with millers, we've heard them talk about, and all of that are some of the challenges that we just listed here. A lot of these rice mills, particularly the big rice mills, they don't have enough paddy to be able to, you know, feed their operation throughout the year. You know, and a lot of factors can be attributed to that. It could be that they don't have, some of them don't even have the fund to be able to stock up. And at the point, especially in the month of, let's say, April, May, June, you know, July, you know, a lot of these mills are already struggling with having access to paddy. So we also, most of these mills also have challenges of, like I mentioned earlier, quality of the paddy they receive. That's like a major issue, on uniform grains. And that's part of the issues we're also addressing with the farmers that we work with. So you see that a farmer, for instance, most of the farmers, they cultivate a particular variety at, you know, using one part of the farm, and then they cultivate another variety. By the time they're harvesting, they're mixing the whole thing up and all of that. And that affects the quality and the uniformity of the grains. And also broken grains. I'm going to come down to that later on. And a lot of the paddy that most millers receive come with foreign matters, like a lot of chaff and the rest of them. And most of them will tell you that's a huge challenge for them. They think they're buying paddy. At the end of the day, by the time they do the cleaning and all of that, they're seeing maybe 10, 15, sometimes 20% foreign matters and all of that. So also colored grains. A lot of the paddy that these millers also receive come with colored grains, and that usually come with the way the paddy, or rather the rice, was cultivated. Some of them don't even wait for the rice to get fully matured before they harvest. The way they apply their fertilizer and all of that, that affects how full the grain is by the time they harvest. So we then go to some of the challenges that these farmers are facing. A lot of them, first, is access and cost of inputs. Most of these farmers live in rural communities, and a lot of them, you find out that they are, you know, for them to go and buy this input directly, they are like the very tail end of retail, because most of the rural business people, they come to the town to buy from retail what's it called, input sellers, and then they take it to the the rural communities, cost of transportation and everything, that usually add to the cost of this input. So that's one of the key challenge, and then the quality also of the input that they also receive. It's just a minute. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So, all right. So the second challenge is that most of the farmers are not even aware of improved seed varieties. As we engage these farmers, we're discovering these things, and then we're introducing improved seed varieties to them to so that they can be able to achieve more yield and all. And a lot of the farmers also do not even they don't even know the right way to apply their fertilizer. For instance, a lot of the farmers don't know the right quantity to apply. They don't know the right time for them to apply their fertilizer. So all of these things affect their yield output at the end, of the season. Then we also find out that their method of harvesting, the way they harvest, for instance, rice paddy, when they cut the rice, you can see a picture, there's a little picture there. They use stick to hit the paddy. So as they are hitting the paddy, a lot of the grains are broken, and a lot of the grains are lost. That's like one of the major, in fact, most, particularly in the area where we're operating in the Baji, well, about, I would say 80% of the farmers there still use stick to beat the
I'm sorry to interrupt, Michael. Please, we're fast approaching our end of the webinar itself. So can you please round up, because your 15 minutes was up a while ago, please.
Okay, all right. So we do have post-harvest losses. That's one of the challenges that we also have seen. A lot of those post-harvest losses come from their harvesting practice, poor state of the road, lack of safe storage warehouses, and then low quality sack. A lot of the sack they use get torn, in the process of moving. Then we have a lot like flooding issues. Then we have markets, poor access to market and financial services. So we are also saying that, there are also opportunities, in the midst of all these challenges. A lot of opportunities exist. For instance, for companies like ours that are mid-value chain aggregation companies to help provide input, knowledge, and market, and also warehouses, the challenges of warehouses. A lot of companies can come on board to set up warehouses that will help farmers that will help with safe storage. Also, there's the challenge of trucking as well, moving grains to rural communities. A company called Traceability that we've dealt with before, they are doing something very significant in that area. So that is also opportunities that business entrepreneurs can also explore. And then we have the problem of payment system and all of that, as mentioned earlier. So we're saying that if all of these things are done, right, if all of these things, all of these challenges, and all of these steps that we have highlighted are done properly, if everything is done, then we will be able to solve the challenges of low crop yield, rice yield, for instance, that we see across the country. The post-harvest losses will be reduced. We'll see a lot of wealth that will be created. A lot of the farmers will be able to gain more income. And then by 2050, when Nigeria is hoping to hit a 100 million population, we'll have the right food system to feed our population by then. So I'd like to thank you all for having me here. Sorry, we have to rush this and all, and I hope that this has been a bit helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for that very insightful and informative presentation. Please, if you have any questions, use the chat function box and they'll be attended to at the end of both presentations. Thank you. And now to our second speaker for the day. We have Jan, who's the co-founder and CEO of eProd Solutions. He'll be speaking on solutions for reducing post-harvest losses in rice production and processing. Jan, you have the floor.
Let me try to keep the concise a few minutes for discussion. I hope you can all hear me well. So my name is Jan Willem. Thank you. My name is Jan Willem Verkaster. I'm the CEO of eProd Solutions. We offer a supply chain management platform in 20 different countries, mainly sub-Saharan Africa. We work in Nigeria as well, and we work in more than 30 different sectors, including rice sector. So let's look into post-harvest losses for the rice sector. So post-harvest losses, to reduce them, to manage this is quite complex, because the reasons why you have post-harvest losses are complex. If you look, for example, at aflatoxin, which can be caused because of poor storage, maybe the product was harvested wet or too wet, there was no proper drying, then there are lots of complex measures to take to reduce them. So you could have improved varieties that actually might be less prone. There's of course the post-harvest direct handling after the harvest, additional drying, but you will need to train farmers. Farmers need proper storage. They might need access to finance for that. How do you link the farmers to the bank? There should be clear incentives for the farmers to be paid before they can even invest. So what role can ICT play in this? So if I look at a typical company, this is a picture of Kenya, because I'm based in Kenya, but as I said, we work in 20 countries. Kenya is this is a situation that you could actually have also in Nigeria, where organizations, farmer cooperatives, traders use mainly paper-based systems. Now they might have for example, an Excel database to run farmers, the farmer.bio biodata. They might have another tool to do surveys like ODK. They might do mobile payments through M-Pesa or similar systems. But because the systems are not integrated, it's very difficult to scale. And obviously, paper-based systems would also be very difficult to scale. So let's look at a few components of a system like eProd, where ICT can help you. So let's look at the contract farming itself, collection and the payments of farmers, loan management, extension services to make sure the farmers have the skills to develop, to grow the crop, or to decide when to harvest, etc. Stock management. Michael mentioned warehouse receipt systems. These are complex systems. You need ICT tools for that. And then many of you probably work with donor-funded programs where you might get some financial support. So you also need to be able to report how you're spending these funds. So let's look at biodata. You need a platform where you have the basic data of the farmers. For example, the name, location, telephone number, age, gender. A lot of development programs also specifically focus on youth. Obviously, this is important because otherwise you will, if your population of farmers is too old, in a couple of years you might have no farmers anymore. If you focus only on men, that is not very rational because half the population is women. So you need all this data in your set. Now, farmers can be organized, of course, in groups. Groups can be organized under farmer cooperatives. Farmer cooperatives could be under farmer unions. You might even have your own farm. So in reality, this can be quite a complex setup. So you need platforms like eProd to help you manage all this. So the quality of the product also, of course, starts with the seed. So seed traceability is very important. There are different seed varieties. You might have certified seed. You might use your own seed that could be degenerated. So it's very important that you're able to trace it. So from the inputs all the way basically to the final customer, you should be able to trace your product. Now, to trace your product, you need to be able to register the fields. So fields should have a location. Once you have registered a field, there is a crop cycle. For example, you know when you have planted, when you will be harvesting. There's a lot of information that you can use from the field. Then, of course, when you're collecting the product, you need to make sure that the product remains traceable. Yeah, so we started with the seed, and we have the fields. Then when you collect, you need to be able to link that bag in which the product is delivered backwards to the fields, to the seed, but also forward to the truck, the collection center, the bulking center in the field, and of course the factory, maybe after processing even. And you need a fully traceable supply chain. Now, for your field staff, you need to be able that they can manage their activities in the field very efficiently. So in the case of eProd, there's a mobile application that can help the field staff, for example, to look up information, but also the field manager, the office managers, the agronomist, for example, can assign surveys or for certification or baseline survey or evaluations or scouting pests and diseases at farmer level or field level or even group level. And all this can help to have a constant flow of information. Then when you collect a product, you need to make sure that your product is traceable. I mentioned it, so you can link it to the bag, but you should also be able to link it to the field. Yeah, so that is really the core and of course the step afterwards. Now farmers need to be paid. They need to be paid for their product, even if you do a group collection because of practical reasons or a group collection center, or they bring it to the farm. Farmers need to be paid. So often, like Michael mentioned, often farmers want to be paid cash. Yeah, there are many reasons why farmers want to be paid cash, but of course, with large volumes, that is not realistic. It's far too expensive for the trader to bring so much cash frequently to the field. There will be robberies, etc. Now, cash payment is possible in eProd, but you can also pay, for example, through the bank or through mobile payment. There's many possibilities for that also in Nigeria. We have a couple of integrations with your common banks to manage all this. So payment is very important. The reporting of that payment is also extremely important. So full accountability. Then farmers need to finance their crop, make sure also, for example, that they can invest in post-harvest facilities. It's very difficult. So there's input finance and cash flow finance and asset finance. It's very difficult for the farmers because the banks don't have enough information about the farmers. So in eProd or similar systems, you can collect information that the bank would need to assess the risks of lending to a farmer. Obviously, when you are the buyer, that is already a huge assurance for the bank. By sharing additional information, it's relatively easy to link farmers to finance. So they pay, for example, to treat the product. Now, eProd can help there, and eProd can also manage loans, the loan repayment. So whether it is through the bank or maybe it's internal, like you might advance your seed or tractor hours to the farmers, eProd will manage those aspects. You need to build the capacity of the farmer. So typically you would have farmer training, whether it is informal, just under the tree, or a farm field visit or small groups. You can imagine if you have a few hundred groups of farmers and you have a couple of training topics every year, you talk about hundreds or thousands of group training sessions, simply recording attendance, recording the reports, for example, for GIZ or another program that is assisting you. It's really crucial for your credibility. Yes? So eProd is a system that will help you with the accountability and to make sure that the training topics can be monitored well. Then farmers need advisory services. You can automate it with eProd, for example. They can receive localized and automated weather forecast. Like in the case of Nigeria, there's Ignitia, there's a few other companies. These can integrate with eProd, and farmers will receive a 4-day or 7-day weather forecast, whatever you choose. You can choose the variables. So let's say you are drying the product, so you need some additional drying. You need to know whether you need to bring the product inside in evening. And depending on the dew point, is the product going to be more moist because of dew at night, or can you leave the product outside? So this is information that you can share with the farmers, and it will help you reduce, for example, aflatoxin. Now, there's also agronomic advisory service. We work with organizations like Africa Rice. They have an application called Rice Advice. We are now integrating that. There's also IITA with a program called Excellence in Agronomy. It's actually a combination of a number of IAR centers. So with these integrations, ePlot can help send yield forecasting or agronomic advisory services like fertilizer advice directly to the farmers. With ePlot, you can also send SMSs to the farmers in case, for example, there is a delay in the harvest, or there's a new price, or there is a certain pest or disease you want to inform the farmers about. You can send messages. So we talked briefly about warehouse receipt systems. The challenge with warehouse receipt systems is that you need to have a lot of credibility from the financier that the product that you say is in stock, that it's really there. If you say this is in stock, this is the quality, you need to have credible systems that the bank, the financier, is going to use and rely on to advance the farmers. So whether you do warehouse receipt or invoice discounting, it's really critical. So with ePlot, you can actually even advance cash to your staff to buy product in the field or to local shops. Then when they buy, you can see how much they have built in stock for the different grades or the different varieties of the rice. Then you can see how much cash has been spent already, and then how much is in the stores, how much is in the truck, how much is in the warehouse, how much has been sold, the different stages. So ePlot is a very good management system for the inventory. Now, I talked about monitoring and evaluation. If you are working with third parties, whether it is, for example, an international buyer, let's say Michael mentioned Olam, for example, or whether it is banks that need certain information. For example, they want to compare groups, or they want to have information for credit scoring. Of course, always the trader and even the farmers, they need to give consent. They need to agree that the data is used for these purposes. And ePlot will also help with that. The GDPR, very important for organizations like GIZ, for example. That information can be shared. And of course, specifically, if you want to monitor also impact, the socioeconomic impact of the farmers. So ePlot can prepare, it has hundreds of reports, but it can also customize reports according to the logical framework of a development project. And then the organization can actually monitor the progress directly and live, basically. So just to summarize, in the case of ePlot, there's a mobile application, there's a desktop application. You can they synchronize. You can do all kinds of integrations with hardware, whether it is barcode scanners, weighing scales with Bluetooth, printers with Bluetooth to print receipts, for example. When you're distributing inputs, you can print the receipt, they can sign it as a proof. You can integrate with other software, like financial accounting software or the ERP for larger companies. You can integrate with services, like I mentioned, the weather forecast. So ePlot offers a full supply chain management system. You can use that also for advisory service, financial access. So basically, there's a number of services that can be combined, can be bundled. And with ePlot, you can tackle the issues like Michael mentioned. These are complex issues that interact, and you need a complex platform, a comprehensive platform like ePlot to manage it. Now, in case you work with larger organizations, like, for example, Olam or the banks or a GSZ-funded program, we can also create a platform that combines information from multiple traders. Of course, they taking into account the data privacy. This information will be shared and then in the M&E formats, for example. So in the case of ePlot, we offer this platform. It works fully offline if necessary. It can synchronize in a 2G network. It was actually built many years ago. I built it for my own company that I started in 2004. So many years ago, we commercialized it only 5 years ago, but so it has really been tested There's a bit of a history here. And at the moment, as I said, we work in 20 countries. We're quite strong in West Africa, as you can see on the map. So Nigeria is, of course, an important country for us, but we are mainly in West Africa and also East Africa. So to give an indication, the system would cost $0.50 per farmer per year for organizations that have a few thousand farmers. That is, we try to make it affordable because we understand realistically the price has to be affordable. I want to mention a training program. We have an important free of charge program for millers and traders. We work with a partner called Bühler. Bühler is a company that's a Swiss company.
Jan, we can't hear you. No, we still can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this was the last slide. So let me just summarize. The Bühler is we offer a free of charge training program. If you see the web address africagrainsonline.net. At the moment, 80 millers are being trained, including millers from Nigeria. It's for 20 weeks, half a day per week. It is online, and there are 8 modules about milling technology and 8 modules about contract farming. So eProd will help you develop a business plan for contract farming, so you can take a well-informed decision. So please register. The next cohort is starting in January next year. At the moment, we are training 80 millers across sub-Saharan Africa. So thank you very much. This was my last slide. Please reach out in case you have any questions. We will share the presentation afterwards. Thank you. Okay, I also cannot hear you.
So, thank you very much, Jan, for that very insightful and informative presentation. Please note that we would. Okay, I'm getting feedback. Okay, please bear in mind that we would send all the presentation slides via email once the presentation is done. Sorry that we would run over time, just a few minutes. I would try to get us out of here in 10 minutes. So now we're going to move to questions. Please remember to use only the chat function to ask your questions. I have a few questions here, so I'll start. What types of aftercare support are given to those who purchase solutions to improve their productivity for their farmers? So in areas of monitoring fields, managing input, and product aggregation. So I would say that's for Jan. Please unmute yourself.
Could you repeat the question, please?
I was asking what types of aftercare support are given to those who purchase your solutions.
Okay, so that's a good question. I didn't have time to go into the details, but basically if you buy a license, there is a training program, usually on-site, but it can also be remote. And then after the training, so let's say after 1 week you would be up and running. After that, there is the back office support. So our team is basically always available to answer questions. In each country, we are setting up a local support team. But at the moment for Nigeria, I must be honest, and our support is given from the Nairobi office, which works well because there's only 2-hour time difference.
Yeah.
And we can also do on-site support. That's also possible. My team will actually be there in a couple of weeks. Actually, at the moment, we have a team in Nigeria. So if you would like to have an on-site demo, for example, that's always possible. So please reach out.
Great. Thank you very much. Next question is, how does climate control affect rice production? So if Michael can please take this question.
Can you repeat the question again?
How does climate change affect rice production in Nigeria?
Oh, yeah. Climate change, as a matter of fact, it's one of the, should I say, huge issue that some of the farmers, especially rice, are facing. In recent years, for instance, we've seen a lot of cases of flooding. The Ibaji local government, for instance, where we have our rice farmers, is just by the River Niger. It's a local government that just by the River Niger. So every year, these communities experience massive flood. And in recent years, the volume of water that they continue to see, it's really posing serious challenge for them. So yeah, it's actually a major issue, and I'm sure that we also, part of what we're doing is to also bring that awareness to the farmers. You understand, teaching them, letting them know some of the challenges that they are going to be facing in the coming years, particularly as climate issues continue to be at the front burner. So it is a problem, but the key thing is that what resilience are the farmers building against this? And for us, we're first of all making them to be aware that these are the challenges. And one of the key things I've seen is the farmers being able to cultivate their land much earlier. That's one immediate actions that our farmers, for instance, have taken, right? Before now, they spend much time. Maybe they start cultivating by April or by May, June. But now we're seeing them, anything from February, March, they've already started cultivating. So that's one action that we see that they are taking. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. So unfortunately, we are past our time for today's webinar. Please still feel free to ask your questions when you receive the emails. The contacts of both our speakers and their presentations will be sent via email to you. So you can reach out to both speakers and to our support person, Zainab. Sorry, there's a question here. Can I just quickly? Okay, so just please feel free to send your questions to them directly when you receive the email. Unfortunately, we are past our time and we would have to end the webinar now. But thank you all for your time. And the recording also will be available on our AHK YouTube channel. This recording will be uploaded before the end of the week. So it will be available on AHK on YouTube. You can find the videos there. Thank you once again to our speakers for taking the time to address us and to share such useful information. And a huge thank you to Zainab for being part of the webinar series. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Boss.
Okay.
Zainab Datti.
Sorry, someone's mic is interfering. Okay. No problem. Thank you very much, everyone, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.